train in the house. Woo! Looks like we've got some angels in the crowd tonight. Well, that's great, because I've got something I've got to say.
Today, the conversation's going to get real. Many people are no longer asking, does God exist? They are actually asking if God exists. And if you do exist, God, what are you doing? Because when we look around the world, it can feel like darkness is winning, right? What do you do when the news becomes unbearable? When every day brings another story of violence, another child harmed, another family destroyed, another person abused by someone who was actually supposed to protect them, another vulnerable soul crushed by a system that was meant to help them. And somewhere in the middle of it all, people are asking, God, where are you? Because if you are so good, why is there so much evil? If you are powerful, why don't you just stop it? If you are love, why does the world feel so cruel? These are not questions from weak people. These are questions from honest people. They are questions from breaking hearts. Now, I think one of the greatest mistakes we make is imagining that God sees the world the way we do. We open our phones and we see 1,000 tragedies. We turn on the news and we see suffering from every corner of the earth. It's a nightmare. And our nervous systems absorb it all, day after day, until slowly we come to a conclusion. The world is getting worse. Evil is everywhere, so God must be absent. But perhaps something deeper is actually happening, because the same world that contains cruelty also contains compassion. The same world that contains murder contains people risking their lives to save strangers. The same world that contains abuse contains people dedicating their lives to healing the wounded. The same world that holds darkness also holds light. But here is the problem. Darkness shouts and light whispers. A single act of violence can dominate the headlines across the world. We see it every day. But 1,000 acts of kindness happen quietly and they disappear before the sun goes down. Yet both are real. Still, that doesn't answer the hardest question, does it? Why does God allow people to hurt each other? Like, why? Why doesn't God just stop the hand before it strikes? Why doesn't God silence the cruel word before it is spoken? And why doesn't God intervene before the innocent suffer? These are questions that have been asked for thousands of years by philosophers, by mystics, by saints, by ordinary people in unbearable pain. And maybe part of the answer is something we just don't like to face. Something called freedom. Because a world where love is possible must also be a world where love can be refused. A world where kindness exists must also allow cruelty. A world where people can choose good must also allow them to choose evil. Otherwise, we would not be free. We would be programmed and controlled. And the tragedy is this. Human beings often use that freedom, that power to wound each other. And the ripple spreads, doesn't it? A hurt person hurts another. An abused child becomes a wounded adult. Fear multiplies fear. Violence multiplies violence. Pain gets passed down like an inheritance no one asked for. But then something else appears throughout history, which I found fascinating. There are people who refuse to pass it on. People who absorb pain and then transform it. People who meet hatred with compassion, cruelty with mercy, darkness with light, and every spiritual tradition points to the same mystery. The world doesn't change when darkness disappears. The world changes when someone refuses to become it. When someone carries a different frequency into it. Many people imagine God as distant, like above the clouds, occasionally stepping in to fix things. But what if that is not the full picture? What if God is also working through people, through you? What if every act of courage is God moving through a human heart? What if every act of forgiveness is God moving through a human heart? What if every time someone protects a child, feeds the hungry, comforts the grieving, stands up against injustice or refuses to become bitter, God is present? Not absent, but present. Because maybe God's greatest work isn't control. Maybe it is transformation. When we look at the cruelty of the world, it can feel like darkness is increasing. But there's another possibility. Maybe darkness is being exposed. Things that were hidden for generations are now visible. Corruption is being exposed. Abuse is being exposed. Violence is being exposed. The suffering of vulnerable people is exposed. And what feels like more darkness may actually be more visibility. We see you. Because exposure feels overwhelming, but exposure is often the beginning of healing. An infection must be seen before it can be treated, right? A wound must be revealed before it can be cleaned. And a lie must surface before truth can heal it. And I need you to hear this clearly. If your heart breaks when you see suffering, that is not weakness. That is not instability. That is evidence something sacred is still alive in you. Your grief is proof your humanity is intact. Because the ones we should be concerned about are not the ones who feel too much. It is the ones who feel nothing at all. Because compassion is one of the fingerprints of God. So maybe the deeper question is not, why doesn't God do something? Maybe the question is, what is God asking me to become in the middle of this? Because every generation faces darkness. Every generation is given the same invitation. Become light. Not perfect light, not all-purpose powerful light, but real light. Light strong enough to comfort one person, protect one life, speak one truth, help one neighbor, choose love when hate would be easier, and when millions of people do that, the world changes. So if you find yourself questioning God because of what you see, you are not alone. The prophets questioned, the saints questioned, the mystics questioned, even Christ questioned. The question is not the problem. The danger is when the darkness convinces you that it is the only truth. Because darkness is not something in itself. It is simply the absence of light. And every candle, no matter how small, pushes it backwards. And maybe that is why your heart hurts when you see suffering. Maybe that ache is not proof of God has left the world. Maybe it's proof that something in you still recognizes what love is supposed to be. A deeper compassion, a deeper courage, a deeper love. The world does not need more people arguing about God. God's real. The world needs more people becoming what they believe God is. And maybe that is how heaven enters the earth. One heart at a time, one act at a time, one soul choosing light when darkness feels easier. And despite everything we see, I still believe light is stronger. Not because life is easy. No, not because the news says so, but because history keeps proving something the darkness cannot erase. The human capacity to love still remains, and wherever love remains, hope remains. And wherever hope remains, the story is not finished yet. My name is Rain, and this is All Souls Gathering, where every soul matters. Where your heart matters, and where the focus is always your heart. No matter how dark it gets, I am here to remind you the love you carry is not small. It is not accidental. It is powerful, and it can change the world around you. One moment at a time, one breath at a time, one act of love at a time, and that is how we find our way back to the light.